बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अस्सलाम वालेकुम स्टूडेंट्स। उम्मीद करता हूँ कि आप सब लोग खैरियत के साथ होंगे and I welcome you all here today to the fourth lecture of consumer psychology. As usual, let me give you a brief review of what we discussed in our last lecture. Our last lecture was a detailed and thorough discussion on one of the very important concepts of consumer psychology, which is called marketing mix. We defined that marketing mix consists of a company's product or services offerings to the consumers and different tools and methodologies it uses to accomplish that exchange. So marketing mix, in a way, is a collection of tools that are available to a business to gain the desired reaction in the market in line with its marketing objectives. We further defined the marketing mix consists of four important elements. These elements include number one, product, number two, place, number three, price, and number four, promotion. We defined that products consist of designs, features, brands, and packages, as well as different post-purchase benefits to the consumers, which include warranties and return policies, etc. We further defined that products are not just one-time products. It never happens that a company will make a product and it will go on selling this product forever. Products have to be alive as they go on changing with the evolving needs of the consumers. Simultaneously, we defined that products come in many different shapes and sizes, but the most important thing with reference to the products is that products are not taken as the physical features, but products are conceived by the consumers with reference to the perceived needs that they will be satisfying. So consumers do not purchase the physical features of the products, they actually purchase the perceived benefits in the products. We then mentioned the concept of price. When we think about price, we think about it in terms of the money that we pay over the counter to get any product. However, when we talk about the price technically, it includes many different elements. For example, the list price, the rack price, different post-purchase benefits, warranties, etc., as well as different methodologies that are used to purchase the products. Price has some psychological implications as well, which means that sometimes all those expensive products that we purchase, we think that these products will also be carrying higher quality. And all those products that we purchase at a low price, we come to think that these products will be having low qualities. However, a lot of times our expectations are denied by our experience. It happens many times that we purchase a very expensive product and it turns out to be that its quality is very, very cheap. And at times we purchase a very cheap product and turns out to be that its quality was very, very good. Price has also some psychological implications. For example, when on another dimension, sometimes price signals gives a statement about the consumer as well. Certain consumers, they tend to purchase expensive products. While doing so, they are giving a signal to their environment that they come from a socioeconomic background that allows them to purchase expensive products as well. Such consumers would not be ready to purchase cheaper products as they are interested in giving a sign of their social status while purchasing the expensive products. Students, we also defined the difference between the price as well as the consumer cost. And we defined that consumer cost consists of all those different items that a consumer must surrender in order to purchase the rights to use the product for a longer time period. It is more than the price as well. And one example that we discussed was that when we go to purchase a car, usually we come across the actual price of the cars. However, later on we come to realize that there is a lot of additional cost as well. Sometimes it is the insurance rates, and at times we are purchasing the cars from the banks or the leasing companies, and we come to realize that when we are purchasing the car from banks or the leasing companies, then there are additional costs like the interest rates, like the markups or the bank's service charges, etc. also involved, added up to the price. Good companies sometimes try to reduce the non-cost items of the price and bring down the total cost to the consumer. Eventually, this way they try to increase the demand and make the product cheaper for the consumers. So that is how, by using the price handle, they are trying to provide value to their target consumers. We then discussed the concept of place. When we talk about place, It means providing the products or making the products available to the consumers at places where they could purchase it. A variety of venues could be used to make the products available to the consumers. These include stores and non-stores places. When we talk about the non-stores places, you might come to think about different peddlers and salesmen who go from place to place in order to sell their products. Then there are other variations as well. In different kinds of magazines and newspapers, we come across different mailing orders and shipment orders that we can fill out and send to the companies so that they could send us the product. However, with the digital revolution, there is a new venue made available to the consumers, which is called Internet. And through Internet, now consumers can log on to the official websites of different companies and fill out their orders and get their products quite in time. So there is a variety of venues available where the products could be made available to the consumers. Students, we then discussed the concept of promotion. When we think about promotion, usually we come to think about it as the advertising strategy of a company. However, technically speaking, as we discussed in our last lecture, promotion means a lot more. It entails, in fact, the total communication strategy of a company to its target consumers. We found out that it is very important for a company to maintain a constant communication with their target consumers. And a variety of methodologies, tools, and techniques may be used to achieve this objective. Now, advertising strategy happens to be one of those. The packaging of the product also happens to be one of those. Then different companies come up with frequent press releases about their products and about the issues that their products solve for the customers. Then a variety of creative methods can be used to maintain a constant communication with the target consumers. As you would have found in ordinary life, that when we maintain a constant communication with someone, and if that communication is mutually rewarding and satisfying, then it develops the understanding of both of the parties engaged. Similar is the case with the companies as well as the consumers. We then discussed important questions that companies should consider when they are considering their promotional strategy. We identified 5 basic questions, which were: number 1, with whom exactly do we want to communicate? What effect do we want our communications to have on our target consumers? Question number 3 was: what message will achieve the desired impact upon our target audience? Question number 4 was: what means and media should be used to reach the target audience? And finally, what should we communicate with our audience? Students, we finally discussed the concept of auxiliary services in our last lecture. And I mentioned that auxiliary services are added with the product to gain technical advantage over the consumers, over other competitors. We discussed the example of a car repair mechanic who provides free pickup and delivery service to gain technical advantage over other car repair mechanics in the market who are not providing the similar services. Similarly, you could come to think about a restaurant who's providing free delivery service to its target consumers. Auxiliary services, in fact, when they are added to the product, they add to the benefits to the consumer, and eventually they bring up a lot of value to the consumer. So auxiliary services, when these are planned, they should be planned very, very carefully, as they cost money to the company. And only those services need to be added that would provide maximum value to the consumer, and other services need to be cut down. Students, today in our lecture we will discuss 3 important drivers of the marketing concept, which include: number 1, customer value; number 2, providing high level of customer satisfaction to the consumers; and number 3, building a structure for constant retention of the target consumers. Before I take you towards these 3 important concepts, let me give you a small discussion to develop a build-up against which we will carry out our discussion into the details of the concepts. Students, in our last few lectures, we have been talking about the emergence and development of the marketing concept. And I hope you would have understood the basic elements of the marketing concept. However, an important aspect of the marketing concept is that after its emergence in 1950s, later on many companies started using marketing concept. And today the world is full of companies that are using the tools and methodologies of marketing concept to gain technical advantage over their competitors and achieve the objective of massive level sales. However, after all of this, the market has become an increasingly competitive place nowadays. After the digital revolutions in 1990s, it also enabled the marketeers to enter into the competition in a more sophisticated fashion while reducing the cost of entering into the competition. Since marketing concept was extensively used, it has accelerated the rate at which the new competition enters in the market, and it has also increased the speed at which the companies have to constantly upgrade their market segmentation, positioning, and targeting processes as well. The smart marketeers these days understand that in order to gain the full potential of their target consumer, they must consider every single individual consumer available in their target areas and designated markets. To do this, they must make customer the core of their companies. And this is not possible if every single employee working in different segments and sectors of the company is not thinking about the consumer as the core of all of his or her activities. So there has been a shift over the last few decades in the marketing concept from considering customer as one-time transaction to developing a long-term relationship with the customer over a longer period of time. So there has been two approaches to the marketing, which include number one, transactional approach to the marketing, and number two, the relationship approach to the marketing. In the most suitable example that comes to my mind to convey you the meaning of relationship marketing is that of a small retail store operating in the market of a residential block. Usually in the residential blocks, there are small markets where few retail stores are operating. They are mostly considering their target consumers as one-time in terms of one-time transaction, which means consumers come to them who are living in the same residential block and fulfill their basic grocery needs from these retail stores. However, there are some smart retailers in these small residential blocks who provide some extraordinary services to their target consumers in order to build up a relationship with these people who are the residents of this block. They do this by adding some extraordinary services that they will provide to their target consumers. These sometimes include providing the credit facility or providing the free delivery services. However, when they are providing all these services, the basic objective in their mind is of developing a long-term relationship with their target consumers, because all of these consumers are going to live in this residential block for a very long time period, and similarly the same retail store is going to operate in the same block for a very long time period. So if a good and better relationship is built up, then the retailers would not have to worry about that these consumers would not come back to them for their next sales. Owing to this kind of thinking, they are thinking about the consumers not in terms of just one-time sales, but in terms of the sales that they could make with them over the next 5, 10, or maybe 15 years. And sometimes it happens the same retail store is working in the same residential block for a very, very long time period. Sometimes it crosses the generations as well. At this point, a question might be coming to your mind that when the retail stores offer credit facility, their finances actually get blocked. However, some smart retailers also try to elevate their margin of profit, which the consumers also understand that since they are blocking the finances of the retail store, then they also deserve a higher profit margin. Gradually, from credit facility, a better relationship is built up between the retailer and the consumer, which is based upon understanding, and it goes on for the years. And these consumers would not go to purchase their products from another store. Students, now let me give you a comparison between the transactional approach to marketing and the relationship approach to marketing. Transactional approach always concentrates over one-time sales, and investment is made into the products. And research is always carried out in terms of understanding the market segment in better and better ways. However, the focus remains on the short-term profit. As we discussed in our last example, the retail stores who are not providing extra services to their consumers, and they are not successfully building up a relationship that will go for long-term, are always concentrating on just one-time profit. However, when we talk about the relationship approach to marketing, then we are not considering one-time sales. We are actually focusing over building up the relationship with the target consumer that would go on for years and years. Investment is not only made in the products but also in the customers in order to understand them in better and better ways, so that a good and mutually understanding as well as mutually rewarding relationship could be built up with them. And the focus is always on the long-term profit. Students, I hope from our previous discussion you must have understood that the relationship marketing focuses over relationship building, investment is made into the customers, and customer analysis is carried out at extensive details, while the focus always remains over the long-term profit. Now, it's time that we discuss the three important drivers of the marketing concept, which are basically the three drivers of building up successful relationship with our target consumers. The three important drivers of building up a strong relationship with target consumers are: number one, customer value; number two, customer satisfaction; and number three, customer retention. So let's move forward to the concept of customer value. Let's define what this concept actually means. As you can see on the slide, customer value means ratio between the customer's perceived benefits, which are economic, functional, and psychological, and the resources, which are monetary, time, effort, and psychological, that are used to obtain those benefits. Let me give you a small example. Suppose one day you decide to eat biryani out of a dhaba. I hope you understand the meaning of dhaba. Dhabas are small places, food stores we can call them, where cooked meals are served. These are mostly found in the local markets where common folks come and have their dinners or lunches. Dhabas are usually very popular for the tasty and spicy food that they have to offer. And biryani remains to be one of the key items that is usually made available at dhabas. When you decide to have your lunch or dinner at a dhaba and you want to eat biryani, your expectations usually are in terms of getting better taste out of your food, a cheap meal, a cheap but full meal that you will get on the dhaba, and sitting with the common folks. However, you are also aware that on a dhaba you might not be served food in good crockery. The services might not be very good. Your food might be delayed to you. So, keeping all these expectations in your mind, when you go to the dhaba and the food is served to you, you actually come to conclude that you have had a wonderful experience and you ate delicious biryani. So your expectations are pretty much satisfied, though the standard of the services was not so good. But you are satisfied only because you thought that your expectations were not also so high. Let's suppose on another day you decide to treat your family on an Italian restaurant. When you are going to an Italian restaurant, your expectations are that you would get some extraordinary, unique food over that place. You are also thinking that the restaurant's interior decor might be very excellent. Maybe they're going to provide you with a window into the world of Italy. And you are thinking about extraordinary services in terms of provision of food, the crockery, and so many things are coming to your mind which are actually building up your expectation level. So you go to a restaurant, Italian restaurant, and you have your dinner over there. And let's suppose on all of these different elements you are pretty much satisfied by the restaurant's services. Let's suppose the food was good, the environment was according to your expectation, and you actually had very nice time over there. However, you come to pay a huge bill at the end of your dinner to pay for your dinner. But when you come out of the restaurant, you are thinking that it was a good experience being at that restaurant and I thoroughly enjoyed, even though the cost was quite high. So if you compare both of the experiences of eating biryani from a dhaba and eating food or dining at an Italian restaurant, you would come to understand that your expectations go on changing. So what is the perceived value and benefit for the customer? I hope you would have understood that this is very subjective. Just like your expectation changes from eating out of a dhaba to very high expectations from eating out on an Italian restaurant, similarly your expectations with reference to different products go on changing. And matter of fact, the value that you get out of your purchase is a very subjective experience. So what is the concept of customer value in that case? Let me tell you that concept of customer value emerged out of the traditional practices in ancient times. Value means satisfaction of customer requirements at the lowest total cost of ownership, acquisition, and use. So value is always relative, worth, or importance. Let me show you a slide to make you understand the concept of value in a bit of graphical manner. As you can see on the slide, this is the scale of the customer value. On one side of the scale is quality, and on the other side of the scale is price. When we talk about value, the quality has to be improved and the price will have to be decreased. So students, you must have understood that customer value means that the price needs to be very, very competitive, while there should not be any compromise over the quality. It should be constantly raised. So when we talk about the overall quality of the product, we are not just talking about the product. We are talking about different features of the product. I mean, in the product's design, quality must be retained, but simultaneously with the customer services as well as all the sales efforts that are exerted into it, the quality needs to be constantly maintained. Let me tell you, when a company professes into the idea of providing extreme customer value to its target consumers, their marketing strategy entirely changes. It starts impacting their marketing strategy in a way that it goes on from the transactional approach to the relationship approach. Now let's see, though this is not the topic of the day, but let me give you a brief review of how the marketing strategy changes and what are the value-driven marketing strategies that companies adopt after they start thinking that they will provide maximum customer value to their target consumers. There are 10 important features of the value-driven marketing strategy. Number one is understanding the customer choices. We have already discussed it in detail in our preceding lectures. However, at this point, you may just remember that when we talk about providing, understanding the customer choices, we need to understand that what kind of products, features, designs, and brands are appreciated by the customers, so that we only make those products that the customers would be interested in purchasing. Number two is identifying the customer segments. We also discussed this concept in our last lectures, and we identified that when we are talking about the specific needs of customers in particular segment, this means understanding the common needs of consumers in a particular target segment. Number three is increasing the competitive options for a product. Let's say these days marketing, the environment of market is extremely competitive and tough. Winning new customers is gradually getting exceedingly difficult. So when a product is launched in the market, there is a danger that this product might be conceived as one of many different products that are fulfilling the same need. However, at this point, unless a product is able to add some competitive advantage and gain some superiority over the competitor products, the product will not be able to create its right kind of position in the mind of the consumers. So emphasis should be made upon increasing the competitive advantage of the product. We have discussed many different examples in our previous lectures, and you may think about a few of those. Number four is avoiding price wars. This is something that we have not discussed in our previous lecture. Avoiding price wars should be kept in mind all the time, because as you see, when a company adopts marketing concept, they really have to get into tedious hard work to fine-tune into their target consumers. This requires a lot of researching, understanding the target segments, understanding the needs of the consumers, and then finally a product is designed with reference to the needs and constraints of the target consumers, and then extremely tough marketing strategies are used and a lot of efforts are put into it to gain some better position in the minds of the consumers. At this point, you might have come across examples in which companies tend to get into greedy price wars, which means that they would reduce the price of their product, say by a few rupees or paisas or pennies, in order to entice the consumers into purchasing their own products. When they are doing all of this, that means they are flagrantly disregarding all of the hard work that they have put into developing the idea of that product. And they are simply giving into the competition of the market, and they are just trying to reduce the price in comparison with their target consumers. Consumers come to understand that eventually, and it eventually impacts negatively the mental image that they are carrying about a certain product. So the price wars need to be avoided. Number 5 is improving the quality of the services that are added with the product. When we are talking about the services, then we need to understand that services should be extremely carefully designed and very creatively thought about so that they are only facilitating the customers. And they are not something that is just added upon as to attract the customers, but they actually help solve certain problems that consumers are facing. Only then these services will have some competitive advantage over the other products that are available in the market. Number 6 is strengthening the communication with the target consumers. We have also discussed this in a bit of detail in this lecture as well as in our last lecture. The need over here is to maintain a constant communication touch with the target consumers. Let me tell you, as a psychologist, I understand that effective communication means that both of the parties who are engaging with each other need to understand each other. And more communication that takes place between them should be based upon understanding each other. When such kind of communication is taking place between the consumers and the target, and the companies, then a mutually rewarding and understanding relationship is being built up. Number 7 is focusing on what is meaningful for the customers. We have discussed in a bit of detail in our previous lectures that customers do not purchase the physical features of the product. They purchase the perceived benefits that they might get out of a product. And this requires an extraordinary understanding of the consumer as to what are the different psychological needs that are compelling them to make a certain kind of purchase. Once a company has a better understanding over what is more meaningful for the customers, then they can address those issues in their communication strategies as well as the designs of the product. Number 8 is building customer loyalty, which means concentrating on the relationship dimension with the customer, not just thinking about the customer in terms of one-time sales transaction. When we talk about building the relationship, then naturally relationship is always give and take, relationship is always better understanding, and companies engage into processes through which they not only maintain constant touch with their target consumers, but a give and take process is also going on. Like they come up with different strategies to ease out the customers, say close to Eid or close to Christmas. They come up with huge sales that would facilitate the customers buy in bulks, because all of the people in these days have to make heavy level of purchases. So this is a bit of a give and take example, and this helps companies develop a better relationship with their target customers. Number 9 is improving brand success. The improvement of brand success is slightly rather quite complicated procedure. It means using all the different handles of effective marketing in a very skillful and dexterous manner. This requires more and more understanding, which is built up over the time, and changing the company's policies with reference to the changing environment in which the consumers are existing. And finally, developing strong customer brand success and relationships with the target consumers. Students, at this point, let me give you a recap of 10 different characteristics of the value-driven marketing strategies. Before I give you that, let me tell you that these are in fact 10 different ways the companies assist their customers. So let's go on the slide. We discussed 10 important ways companies assist their target consumers through the value-driven marketing strategies. These include number 1, understanding the customer choices. Number 2, identifying customer segments. Number 3, increasing their competitive options. Number 4, avoiding price wars. Number 5, improving services quality. Number 6, strengthening communications. Number 7, focusing on what is meaningful to the customers. Number 8, building customer loyalty. Number 9, improving brand success. And finally, number 10, developing strong customer relationships. Students, you must have understood from our previous discussion that providing superior customer value to the consumers on a consistent basis requires the companies to do a better job at anticipating and reacting to the evolving needs of the consumers. It is important to understand the concept of customer value from the customer's point of view, which is why nowadays the term unique selling proposition is being constantly changed into the term value proposition. When we talk about the unique selling proposition, our emphasis is usually, in fact, upon the product. Unique selling proposition is always some salient feature of the product that gives it competitive advantage over the competitors. However, when we talk about the value proposition, or when we start using the term value proposition, our entire focus changes from the product to the customer. It is the customer that we are trying to facilitate, and developing the product is just one way to satisfy our customer. Different companies are using different kinds of value propositions. For example, one car manufacturing company might come up with the value proposition, zero defects in manufacturing and superior and personalized customer services. Personal computers manufacturing company might come up with the value proposition like customized PC systems assembled speedily and sold at uniform prices. Now, at this point, let's do a bit of discussion on what is the nature of the value creating organizations. Since we have already established the point that when a company professes into the idea of providing superior customer value to its target consumers, then every single individual employee that's working in different departments are actually targeting only one thing, and that is providing value to the customers. If we look at the companies like that, then all of the individual employees in a company then become value creating entities. So all of the employees are different units and sections which are working over providing value to the customers eventually. A strong and competitive edge can be gained by consistently providing superior customer value to the target consumers. In order to create and deliver superior customer value, organizations must be strong not only in purpose but also in the process. When we talk about the process and the purpose, a small example is coming to my mind. Suppose you go to the market to purchase yourself a shirt. There are two kinds of shopkeeper behaviors that you might come across. For example, in one shop when you enter and you look at different kinds of shirts and finally you chose one out of those, a rude kind of salesman comes to you and he says, "Sir, make sure that your sizes are okay and there is no defect in the shirt, because after you have taken this shirt out of this shop, then we take no responsibility at all. We would not change the shirt, or we would not even change the sizes, we would not return it." However, there could be other shops where you enter and a nice smart salesman comes to you who's very polite, and he checks about your sizes, advises you over the design and how the shirt looks upon you, and assures you that after you have taken this shirt and if you find out any problems with this shirt, you could always come back and return it. We would gladly change the sizes, and if you're not satisfied at all with the product, then you might return it and we give you complete money back guarantee. So imagine on which shop you would be more pleased. Which is the shop in which you would want to go back over and over again to purchase your clothes? I'm sure the second shop would be your choice, just like mine. Student, let's progress our lecture forward and discuss the concept of customer satisfaction. Before I give you details of the concept of customer satisfaction, let's do a bit of discussion on the word satisfaction. When we talk about satisfaction, it means that certain expectation is properly met with. So the word satisfaction is always taken with reference to the word expectation. And when your expectations are met, you are satisfied. If your expectations are not met with, then you are not satisfied. When we talk about the customer satisfaction, we talk about customers whose expectations are properly met with by the designs of the products, by the services offered to them. And dissatisfied customers, of course, would be the ones who are not satisfied with their products. For example, if imagine that you are going to purchase a television set for yourself. For a split second, just start thinking that when you're thinking about purchasing yourself a television set, how many things are coming to your mind? You are thinking about the design of the television, you're thinking about its colors, how it looks like, what kind of features this television carries, and in your imagination, you're also kind of visualizing that how would you be using your television. Simultaneously, there is another series of thinking also emerging in your mind, that where are you going to purchase your television from? What if something goes wrong with your television when you bring it back home? Would you be able to return it, or would the company take responsibility for any defects that might turn out to be in the television set? And if there are any defects, Is the company going to fix it up or change it? Then there are other thoughts also, like in which market do you have to go, how would you go there, and what transportation means would you use to go to the shop and then bringing the television back home. So if you concentrate in your imagination, there are so many different elements that are coming to your mind. Now, if you actually go to purchase a television, then on all of these elements you need to be satisfied. If on any step of the way your expectations are not properly met with, your experience of dissatisfaction would accordingly start rising. And if you are dissatisfied on, say, more than one different steps, then you might turn out to be dissatisfied consumer. You might not like that process. So what is customer satisfaction? Let's define the concept of customer satisfaction. I would like to take you to the slide at this point. Students, customer satisfaction is defined as individual's perception of the performance of the product or service in relation to his or her expectations. Customers whose experience falls below their expectations are dissatisfied customers. Customers whose experience meets with their expectations are satisfied customers. And customers whose expectation is met with in a very, very good fashion, then they are extremely satisfied customers. Rather, they could be called the delighted customers. Customer satisfaction, the satisfaction experience that customers have, also carries some perceived value. For example, dissatisfaction would always be interpreted as a negative experience. Satisfaction would not be interpreted as a positive experience, but as a neutral experience. And if the customer is extremely satisfied, which means the level of satisfaction is extremely high, then the customer would rate it as positive experience. Such personal assessments about the personal satisfactions in the purchase process, in using the product, and in the after-sales services impact the future purchase as well. Students, at this point, let me give you an example of customer satisfaction. There is a range of cars being manufactured in our country. And over the last 15 years, matter of fact, there have been some substandard cars also being launched in the market. A lot of times, these cars would fail to meet with the international standards. For example, there are no seat belts in the cars that were manufactured, say, about 15 years ago, even about 5 years ago. Even still, there are cars that have no safety airbags. Since the cars are manufactured for the local consumers, then local consumers might be satisfied with purchasing substandard cars, as they have never been able to use the kind of cars that meet with international standards. However, if a consumer comes who has had experienced cars which have been meeting with international standards, then he would not be satisfied with these substandard cars. So his customer satisfaction would not be properly met with, as his expectations are not being met with. With reference to customer satisfaction, we can divide customers into 5 categories, just for the convenience sake. And those 5 categories are called: number 1, loyalists; number 2, apostles; number 3, defectors; number 4, terrorists; and number 5, mercenaries. Now let me describe you each of these categories of consumers with reference to their customer satisfaction. At times it happens that we go on purchasing a certain product for a long time period. It could be a certain toothpaste, a certain packet of tea leaves, could be a particular soap. And at other times we go on purchasing our products from a particular grocery store all the time. Matter of fact, we have been doing it for a very, very long time period, and we hardly think about switching the brand or going to another shop to purchase our groceries from. If our behavior is something like that, then the company might interpret us as loyalist customers, because our satisfaction level has always been met with. We are satisfied with the company's products or from purchasing our products from a particular grocery store, and we would not think about going to another store. The second kind of customers with reference to satisfaction are apostles. Suppose one evening you go to a restaurant, you were just experimenting with different restaurants, and you just happen to be having some food on this place, and your experience has been extremely positive. you find out that this place is extremely good, the interior decoration is amazing, and the food is simply wonderful. So are the services. And the additional advantage is that all of these things are served at a very cheap price. What will you do in the morning? You will go to your friends or colleagues and you would tell them, hey, last night I went to a restaurant and I thoroughly enjoyed my experience, and I highly recommend you to go dine into this restaurant. If our behavior is something like this, then we are called apostles with reference to customer satisfaction. The third kind of consumers with reference to satisfaction are defectors. There are customers who have been merely satisfied with these cars, and this actually provides reason for a competitor company to come inside and add all those features that would help their car meet with the international standards, and the customers might defect from the previous brand into purchasing their cars from this new company, which is offering them new shape and meeting with international standard at a slightly improved cost. These kinds of customers may be considered as defectors because in their previous experience of using the locally manufactured substandard cars was also not an experience of dissatisfaction because they did not know the benefits of using a car that meets with the international standards. However, when a new thing has come in that's facilitating them in all possible ways, then they would definitely defect. So defectors are customers who feel neutral or merely satisfied with the products or a company, and they are likely to stop doing business with that particular company and shift on to another company. Finally, there are terrorists. Well, this word is very, very popular these days, but when we talk about it with reference to marketing concept in the perspective of consumer psychology, then terrorists are the customers who have had extremely negative experience with their products. Imagine you go to purchase a certain product, you thought about it in an entirely different way. Maybe you thought this would be an extremely valuable purchase, and when you come back, bring it home, you find out that it was totally different product. It does not even have all those features that were promised to you. And its apparent shape looks like that this is kind of a non-professional product. So you start feeling that you have been robbed of your money. This is an extremely negative experience. And in the morning, you are likely to tell your friends, hey, I purchased this product. Do not go to the same store again and don't purchase this product. Students, let me tell you funny fact that when a customer is extremely satisfied, then he tells about 3 to 5 people about his positive experience. However, if a customer is extremely dissatisfied, then he's going to tell it to at least 15 or 20 people. So this rule must also be kept in mind when companies are launching their products in the market and they are providing different kinds of services to their target consumers. Finally, there are mercenaries. Mercenaries are the kind of consumers who just shift into purchasing another product or buying another brand just for the sake of experience. These are the consumers who are very satisfied with their products, but just for the sake of experimentation, they just switch into buying another product or another brand. Researchers propose that companies should strive to create apostles. They should raise the satisfaction level of defectors and turn them into loyalists. And they should avoid having terrorists and reduce the number of mercenaries. Students, at this point, let's move forward to the next topic of the lecture, which is customer retention. And let me start by saying that the objective of providing superior customer value to the consumers consistently is to retain the customers for a long time period. I mean, all of the different tactics, methodologies, and tools that are being used to provide customer value to the consumers, those are used to retain the customers for a longer time period and to have a lot of highly satisfied customers, even delighted customers. Why do we want to retain the customers? This is a very basic question. And to give you the answer to this question, I will have to tell you that after the widespread adoption of the marketing concept, the modern day sales environment is exceedingly tough because there are so many companies which are targeting exclusively different segments of the target consumers. Now the market could be divided into tightly packed segments in which each segment is being targeted by many different companies. They are coming up with similar kinds of products and they are using different scientific methods to gain competitive advantages one over the other. In this kind of tough environment, this becomes exceedingly difficult and very costly to launch a new product and gain new consumers. However, if a company already has some consumers who are loyalists and who are with the company for a longer time period, the companies might emphasize over one factor, that is how to retain them for a longer time period, which is why customer retention needs to be focused upon. Let me give you a small example to understand customer retention. For example, about 15 years ago, the intercity travel in Pakistan had been extremely tough. If one can recall, then he will find out that about 15 years ago, traveling through bus from one city to another was an extremely tedious experience. First, standing in long queues to get the tickets, then getting inside the bus, which is extremely uncomfortable, and then all the services providing people inside the bus are extremely rude. Then there are a lot of undesignated stopovers that bus makes during the travel, as it is stopping on many different places and just trying to fill in the seats. So traveling from one city to another city was exceedingly tough. Matter of fact, it was quite an ordeal to travel from one city to another. However, lately there have been some bus services introduced in Pakistan who are providing immaculate services to its target consumers. These buses are very punctual to start off their journey with. The internal environment of the buses has been extremely pleasant, and all the services providing staff is well trained in customer services, and during the journey food is also provided to the passengers, and no passenger has ever seen that his bus has not left the station because they could not fill in the seats. Even at right at the time, if there are only 2 or 3 passengers sitting in the bus just starts traveling. So when all these passengers experienced quality services inside the buses, then it was very difficult for them now to go back to the same 15 years old journey, which was extremely tough. Now, matter of fact, there are so many different bus services operating in Pakistan who are still operating on the nature of the bus services that were there about 15 years ago. In this kind of environment, the new bus service that's providing excellent services to the passengers will retain all of the customers, because these customers would not switch on to another bus service. So what is the concept of customer retention? So let's define the concept of customer retention formally. As you can see on the slide, customer retention makes it in the best interest of the consumers to stay with the company rather than switch to another company. Students, you must have guessed that customer retention is a very expensive process, as winning new customers is a very difficult process because the markets are very, very tough and competitive these days. However, at this point, this is also important to remember that all the customers are not the same, because some customers provide more business to the company than other customers. So smart marketeers build up selective relationships with the customers who provide maximum profit to the company. Students, I think this is about time that our lecture needs to be finished at this point. I hope you enjoyed the lecture. उम्मीद करता हूँ कि आप अगले लेक्चर तक खैरियत से रहेंगे. अपने गिरदे-नुमा के लोगों का और अपने रिश्तेदारों का ख्याल रखिएगा. अल्लाह हाफिज़.